Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Arden, and today we're talking about Justice League Annual Number 2. Pretty fun book overall that I sort of just happened to pick up because I'm subscribed to the Justice League series, and we're reviewing the Death Metal tie-ins right now. And I have to say, I was pretty pleasantly surprised by this thing on the whole. It's just a standalone little story written by Robert Venditti. And once again, we get a good sense of how strong a Justice League writer this guy can be. We talked about him quite a bit when I was reviewing his story arc for the same series, the Justice League series, when the League went up against a corrupted Spectre of sorts. And I really liked that story. That, coupled with a digital first series called Superman Man of Tomorrow, also written by Venditti, shows that this guy really has some talent when it comes to writing both Justice League and Superman. Hey, Karsten Logan, thanks for joining us, along with everyone else coming in for the stream. So, yeah, this is a very strong book on the whole. It's got that similar kind of artwork to, I don't know if it's the same art team. I kind of recognize some names, like the colorist, but like to what Venditti did earlier in Justice League. And as a murder mystery taking place in the Hall of Justice, where the League has to figure out how this seemingly random man just died in one of their headquarters. This is a really fun little story. I would totally recommend it. And it was a pretty excellent choice for a story when it comes to an annual, and a fun little adventure on its own. Okay, so Aaron Leprowski does the penciling, and he does a really great job at making like the story kind of feel like that dynamic mystery where the League has to act quickly to try and solve things as they quickly realize they're also in danger from whatever it is that killed this man. Carson says, "What do you think of the Justice League movie? Like the original theatrical version?" It's pretty awful. I've talked about it before. It's a movie that exists in two lanes and doesn't know which one to be in. So I guess Zack Snyder's version will be better, although it feels like the Zack Snyder parts of Justice League were the parts I didn't really like. So we'll see. But yeah, Aaron Leprowski does the penciling and does a great job at telling this story. Uh, but I think Matt Ryan really sticks out with his coloring, and he's done work on Justice League before. What I really like about him is he brings out the contrasting outfits of the League in a very colorful way. So Wonder Woman, the Flash, but like in Green Lantern and Batman, they all kind of stand out a little bit from each other. Batman's robustly blue, like, and so is Wonder Woman and Superman, and then we got our others to kind of fill it out. And then, of course, with the rest of the Hall of Justice, as they're like using Green Lantern's ring to scan a wall, or the Superman gets blasted with red kryptonite at one point. Ryan's colors really shine throughout this particular book. Um, David Bear. Oh, Matt Ryan did the inking. Well, of course. But that stands out. David Barron does the coloring that I just said all of that stuff for. Well, that's a bit of a goof on my part. But yeah, so on the whole, I think it's a really strong read, and if you wanted just like a spoiler-free review, that's a pretty good one right there. So let's get into what the book's about. We open on Batman kind of alerting the Justice League. There's been a disturbance, and he needs all his experts in the Justice League to use their abilities to figure out how, without tripping any security, a dead body just appeared in the Hall of Justice. So the team pretty quickly gathers. It's a nice intro for the whole team because it goes through what each of them specialize in. So Batman says he needs Clark Kent because that's a man who can find the truth in a story, and he believes that there could be some occult happening. So Wonder Woman would be helpful. Barry Allen is a forensic crime analyst, crime scene analyst, I should say. So he makes sense, and then he calls out for John Stewart because he knows he can think outside the box and has experience investigating crime as well. They all show up in the League within mere moments because they're the Justice League, And pretty quickly, Barry's like running around, analyzing the crime scene. Is able to determine like the guy's been dead for about 2 hours. It looks like the murder happened there because there's no blood trail into where the body's just dumped in the middle of the Hall of Justice. And the security cameras are conspicuously jammed for 1 minute or a minute and a half, uh, during which apparently this body was dumped. It's all quite a mystery, so they start going about it and trying to figure things out, each using their abilities and doing something. But then all of a sudden, the entire Hall of Justice goes into lockdown. Doors start slamming. Superman gets blasted with red kryptonite, like I said earlier. The whole place gets flooded with that stuff. It gets a weird energy barrier around it that prevents Flash from being able to zap through. And then this Sinestro protocol starts reflecting Green Lantern's beams when he tries to blast through the door. All of these countermeasures they put in place against figures like Zod or mirror versions of themselves, like evil or I guess villainous characters in Wonder Woman's pantheon, are all triggered and are able to stop the characters from like escaping from this room. It's an interesting moment where their own little protocols against these villains who are so much like themselves are suddenly backfiring against them. Working together, they do this really cool thing where Barry kind of holds a batarang up against the wall, and then John Stewart creates a piston and fires the piston into the wall, and Barry just moves his hand out of the way last second. An easy feat with his abilities, but just a fun little moment and a clever use of his powers. And that's where Venditti really shines in making this team feel like a team using their unique personalities and abilities to get around these problems and react accordingly. Uh, at this point, giant robots start to emerge to attack. They are sort of security sentries of some kind, but Batman's surprised when they go, like, they have a lethal force authorized, which is strange because these robots aren't programmed with such things, which makes sense. Why would these superheroes ever do that? So the League is a little alarmed to hear this, but nevertheless, a battle begins. With Superman depowered, Green Lantern kind of creates a little exosuit out of his construct energy so he can kind of fight with everyone else, even if it's not going to be at full strength. That should still make him quite powerful. And a battle begins. Batman gets knocked against a wall. Everyone's running around doing stuff, but these robots are well armed against, again, beings kind of like them. Eventually, they come up with a pretty fun plan where John Stewart gets Batman and Superman, and they both do this without hesitation, to sort of stand in the way of the laser beam. And then John Stewart creates these little pipe things out of his constructs that makes the energy beams kind of go through this little network and shoot back out in the other direction, destroying, like, causing the two robots to destroy each other. It's kind of a simple sort of thing where, you know, you get like these bad guys are attacking and you sort of dodge out of the way and they sort of hit each other, but with the added little twist of John kind of deliberately making it like the robots didn't even have to target each other. They just had to fire at a deliberate spot. So all you needed was your teammates to just stand still for a second, and he was able to do it. It also kind of shows the trust that like Batman and Superman had towards Green Lantern, which was great. So they continue on trying to figure out what's going on here. They split up with Batman and Wonder Woman getting attacked by these experimental little micro drones that swarm Batman and start like crawling all over him and like getting into his mouth and nose. It's pretty gnarly stuff. And meanwhile, Superman and Green Lantern and Barry Allen all get attacked by the hangar of the Justice League with Batmobiles and even old classic Superman vehicles like the Supermobile zipping at them, which leads to a couple of pretty fun jokes. All told, the heroes are able to kind of escape their various predicaments just with some quick thinking and working together. Again, just kind of in line with how Venditti writes these books and makes them like a fun and easy read. And by this point, Batman has figured out what's going on, because like those little micro drones that attacked him weren't even really built into the Hall of Justice yet. It was just like an idea they had, And Batman realizes that this was the work of the Eradicator, whose severed head, is currently being held in Batman's lab. He realizes that they've been battling the Eradicator this whole time, but at this point, in response, the android activates the Hall of Justice's Doomsday Protocol, at which point the entire building launches into the air with like these jet things like lifting it by its foundation. And apparently it's going to like kind of hurtle up a safe distance up into the sky so that it can explode. And obviously that would destroy the Justice League. So the Eradicator, they were using him to like upgrade the Hall of Justice's security, but clearly he survived and has been manipulating things, and he kind of has this whole speech about like how this is all their fault. But the Justice League is again quick to work together. Barry Allen like creates a hole in the wall, like in the floor of this room that floods Superman with solar radiation, which by the way is like potentially a lethal dose to Barry, but they just do it anyway so that Superman can get out and get into the sun. At which point he's fully empowered and is able to like push the Hall of Justice back down to Earth, and they are able to prevent the explosion. And meanwhile, while the rest of the league is kind of taking a breath and talking about what happened, Batman is quietly off in some storage center, putting the Eradicator's head away for good in kind of a Indiana Jones style ending. So just a solid book overall, a really fun read, and one I would totally recommend. Like a very simple premise. It's literally just a murder mystery. I mean, the whole thing. Oh, I did kind of skip over like the whole reveal about the dead body. It was just some sort of biological fabrication the Eradicator created to sort of lure the Justice League there, which is why it just sort of appeared out of nowhere in the middle of the hall. Pretty wild stuff, we'll say, in terms of like that's not an obvious. It's not like an obvious mystery, or those clues weren't really presented at the outset or anything like that. So it's not like a true mystery plot where you're trying to solve it. But it's a fun little story about like the League kind of being trapped in basically a haunted Hall of Justice. And that's fun. Now that I think about it too, it's very appropriate for October. So a solid book overall, and I really truly hope that this is the guy that ends up kind of taking over for Justice League after Scott Snyder. It certainly seems that they're leaning in that direction over at DC, but I'm really not sure. Oh, John Paul says, just want to let you know Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns were completely responsible for the theatrical version of Justice League. Have a great day. Yeah, whatever. I don't think that's true at all. Warner Brothers certainly had many a hand in decisions made along the lines. But whatever you guys say. I really don't think much about that Snyder cut or think that it'll change anything. And in terms of that whole 4 hours long business, well, I'll probably do what I did for the longer cut of Batman v Superman and just sort of put that on and like do something else, like clean my entire apartment while it's playing. And it will be fine as a sort of background thing for that, which is about as nice as I can get when it comes to these Zack Snyder DCEU movies, which are like barely okay. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time here on Comic Island. We're gonna next review at least, but I do plan on putting something out in between now and then. We'll be talking about a indie comic that I really enjoyed, and I think you guys will too. So we'll see you guys next time here on Comic Island.